What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about the 2009 film Friday the 13th. Alright, so right off the bat I'm going to get into my history with this movie. This is actually the first Friday the 13th movie I ever saw. So this came out in 2009. In 2009 I was 11, and I was never really allowed to rent these, and I never was able to come across them on TV. I always was able to see Halloween 1, 4, and 5 on TV. They would always be on AMC during October, and I would watch those pretty much every year. So I was definitely interested in Michael Myers, and I knew about Jason. And, since I was interested in Michael Myers, of course, I wanted to learn about Jason and Freddy and see all their movies. And all the kids at school would always talk about Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. And whenever they would, I was just so curious. I would just ask them a million different things about all the, movies and all the sequels and stuff like that. So, yeah, when this movie was coming out, I was 11, and I was really hyped up about it because, like I said, I was a big Michael Myers fan. That was really the only big slasher franchise I had ever seen, and I liked those. So I was super interested, super excited to see Friday the 13th. So I actually saw this in theaters. I was just begging my dad for months and months and months to see it. And at that age, I wasn't usually ever allowed to see R movies. I would never rent them. Sometimes I could catch them on TV if my parents weren't there or if it was a older movie. But for the most part, I wasn't allowed to see R-rated movies. But I just was so persistent with asking my dad to see this movie that eventually he caved in and took me and my brother to the theater to see it. So the theater experience was kind of awkward for me because I almost felt wrong seeing it. I know a ton of people who watched a bunch of horror movies, worse stuff than this, at an even younger age, but I was still pretty darn innocent at that age. So I had seen Halloween and some of the sequels on TV, but Halloween's notorious, especially the first one, for not being gory at all. So when it came to this movie, I was not ready for the kills. I thought this was so scary right when it started, and especially you're seeing it in the theater with surround sound. It's a dark theater. I was scared shitless of this movie. When I watch it nowadays, it's not scary at all, but when you compare it to other movies in the franchise, it definitely is darker, a little bit more intense and scarier than a lot of the other ones. But another thing that was awkward about the theater experience is seeing all the nudity and hearing all the language, and they're trying to find weed and this and that, and I was just I felt like wrong. I'm seeing all this nudity and all this, listening to all this language, and my dad's right here. He's gonna be mad that he took me, and I was like so nervous the entire time. But then I talked to my brother about watching this movie, and that was like the main thing he remembered. He's like, yeah, that nudity was great when I was, because he's like a couple years younger than me. He was like 9 or 10 at the time, so he was like, yeah, I loved the nudity. I was so happy that we went to see that. There was so much great nudity. I loved it. So I thought that was pretty darn funny. But to get into the plot right off the bat, we have these group of young people, and they're trying to find this crop of weed to sell it. The two guys are trying to find the weed and sell it. Their girlfriends don't know, and then there's this other guy, I don't know if he knows, but basically they're trying to find some weed, where they're going to find the weed is Camp Crystal Lake. They don't know, but it's the old, like, of course it's been shut down, but it's the old Camp Crystal Lake grounds. And these people are being picked off. In this part of the movie, there's some really darn good kills. This one guy, I'm not saying this in any order, this one guy gets a machete through the head. You can tell it's a little bit CGI, but it's mainly practical. How they did it is the practical parts, they had half a machete in his head, and then Derek Mears, who played Jason, kind of kicked him back. So the actual machete is real, but it going into its head, going into his head, you can tell there's a little CGI. And then he also gets a bear trap in the leg, and it's all practical. You can see all the tissue and all the veins and all the tendons. It's gruesome. It's really realistic. Another standout kill in this sequence is that guy's girlfriend is hung upside down in a sleeping bag and hoisted over a fire. And they did so many takes, and she had to just fall on her head over and over and over and over, which would be extremely hard because, you have a natural reaction to catch yourself, but as an actor, she's got to be limp, she's got to be dead. So when they were filming that, she was just falling her head over and over and over and over. So those are some standout kills from that sequence. This opening sequence, it totally sets the tone for the rest of the movie. It's intense right off the bat. Jason's intense. He's running. In this movie, he's super smart, resourceful. He's using his environment. He's crafty. So I really like the portrayal of Jason in this movie. So getting back to the story, so all these people are killed, but right before the title comes across the screen, there's this girl and she's about to get killed, but later on, we as the audience realize that she was not killed. Jason took her as a hostage because he thought that she looked like his mom. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention another kill in the beginning, because that made me think about that, because her and her boyfriend find this locket, and he's like, yeah, you look like this woman, which is Jason's mom, Pamela Voorhees. And that's another good kill where they're in Jason's house, and there's all these, he's underground, and he's stabbing his machete up through the ground. And so fun fact, interesting fact about that, they actually did not get a stunt double. That actor did the entire sequence. They, of course, choreographed it, and I don't think they were using sharp blades, but they were real machetes, and they didn't want to use a stunt double because it was all intimate shots, it was all close-ups, so they really couldn't use a stunt double. So, I mean, shouts out to that actor for doing that crazy action sequence, no stunt double. And that day, Derek Mears, who plays Jason, he was actually getting married, so they had someone else playing Jason that day, because the character that I'm talking about gets, after all the machetes come through the ground, he gets pulled into the ground by Jason. And I guess when they were filming that, because he has to slide down with his feet, he was getting all kinds of splinters, and there was all these wood shavings everywhere. But the guy who was playing Jason that day, he got a black eye. He was getting hit in the head a bunch because this guy had to just slide down feet first, like right onto him when he's pulling him down. So that's interesting. But getting back into the story, so like I said, this girl who, it's that was her boyfriend who got killed. So this girl is the last one to get killed, but it cuts to the titles to the main title right before she's gonna get killed, and later on we find out that she wasn't killed. She's taken as a hostage, but her brother is trying to find her because she was taking care of their mom. Her mom was sick and her mom died and she didn't go to the funeral. So he's like, what's up with this? She was taking care of our mom every day and she just doesn't show up to the funeral. Like, there's something wrong. So he's trying to find her. He's passing out flyers. While he's trying to find her, we are introduced to this new group of young people. They're these group of college kids, and they're going up to this cabin. There's this guy Trent. He's just a quintessential douchebag, stereotypical asshole character. You're just supposed to hate him right off the bat. So he has this super huge cabin. He has hundreds of acres, private lake, boat. Just, he's loaded. So we meet Trent and his group of friends. They're basically the new victims. So I mean, that's pretty much the general story. It's a Friday the 13th movie. There's not that much story. You know what happens next. They start getting picked off, you know. But another thing, I was just going over the story, but just going into some random likes and dislikes, just jumping around here. Something that I really did like about this movie is you have both the Jason masks. So you have, in the beginning part, you have Sackhead Jason, and then he eventually gets his mask. The Sackhead in this movie I like. I don't know if I would say, because I do like the Sackhead that he has in part 2, but in this it's kind of an updated version where it's like wrapped. It's little pieces of fabric wrapped, and it's a little bit more worn and dirty. I really like it. It's really creepy, and it's a nice updated look, and it's a cool callback. Once he gets his mask, the mask in this movie, the hockey mask, is so awesome. He gets it from this one character. He's kind of this redneck character, and he tries to sell the girl's brother Clay weed, and he's just reading porno magazines, and he's smoking weed. He's talking to this mannequin that he has upstairs. He's like, remember when I lost my virginity to you? He's just a hilarious character. At one point he's just operating a wood chipper while drinking a beer. I don't know if that's the safest thing to do. I probably wouldn't recommend that, but hey, to each his own, dude. You know, it's your life. Do what you want to do. But that's cool because it's a little bit of foreshadowing. It's, ooh, this wood chipper. Remember it. It's gonna come into play later. And right before you see that, you actually see this this truck with this hay baler on the back, which Trent gets killed on. But going back to the mask, so they actually reshot the scene where Jason gets his mask. Initially it was supposed to be where Jason comes down the stairs and has these gas cans, and he was stealing these gas cans, and the redneck guy is wearing the mask, and Jason cuts off his head. But they didn't like that. They didn't think it was probably not subtle enough, not iconic enough, because that's a really important moment. So they changed it to where he just slits the guy's throat and his bag is ripped, so he gets the mask. And that sequence when he gets the mask is lit perfectly. There's a couple little holes in the ceiling, and you just have these little beams of light, and the mask is lit so well. And then he looks in the mirror. I think the idea of him cutting the guy's head off is cool, but I do like the one that they went with better. I think it's a little more subtle. Um, I don't know, the chopping the head off thing. It'd be cool. I think there is a different cut of this movie, the killer cut. I saw the Blu-ray the other day. I was at, if anyone knows Disc Replay, I was at Disc Replay, and they have a huge movie selection. And I have the DVD right here. I got this a couple years ago. Is that in focus? Yeah, I just have the DVD. I don't have the Blu-ray, but I saw the Blu-ray the other day, and it was saying Killer Cut, which I don't think I've ever seen that cut. I don't know how different it is. I don't think it's like a Halloween 6 situation where it's an entirely different movie, but I would definitely be interested. It was only like $10 to get the Blu-ray. I mean, it was used, but still, I mean, I like this movie. I would pick it up on Blu-ray too. Because this DVD, I mean, I don't even watch bonus features usually, but yeah, this DVD doesn't really have any bonus features, and I would be down to watch a slightly different version. That would be pretty darn cool. Maybe they did put some of the deleted scenes in, but yeah, I liked that there are the two different masks. Another thing that I really liked about this movie is I liked the characters. So a lot of people hate the characters in this movie. I liked them. I thought they were funny. When I watch slasher movies, depending on the slasher movie, I mean, like the first Halloween or Halloween 2 or Halloween 4, I really, there's really not that much comedy, and I would not like it if there was comedy. Like, don't mess with my man Michael Myers. Like, the 2018 Halloween, in my opinion, had way too much comedy. I don't like when they mess with my boy Michael Myers like that, put, too much comedy in the movie. I feel like it doesn't work, but I feel like comedy in a Friday the 13th movie works well, and it's worked well in the past. I mean, look at Friday the 13th Part 6. I was going to say, well, that's different because he's a zombie, but it's still the same character. I mean, Friday the 13th Part 6 is one of my absolute favorite Friday the 13ths, and I think that works extremely well. I think comedy and Friday the 13th go together like peanut butter and jelly, but you can't make fun of Jason. You can't mess with him. I think that if the characters are funny, and they're always supposed to be young, dumb kids. They're supposed to be teenagers or college kids. I mean, I'm around that age, It's like, you're not, I mean, I'm like a little bit older, but you know what I mean? Like, when you're that age, you're irresponsible, you're naive, you're cracking jokes, you're saying inappropriate stuff. Like, I feel like it makes sense, I feel like as long as you don't mess with Jason and you keep him serious, you keep him scary, I like comedy in a Friday the 13th. I like comedic characters. One of the funniest lines, people probably know this line, this is an iconic line, when Trent, the douchebag guy, he's cheating on his girlfriend with this one other girl, and he's just like, your tits, they're stupendous. You have perfect nipple placement. So, I mean, that's just iconic stuff, classic stuff. I feel like most people who have seen this movie remember that. That's just such a memorable line. I mean, I really don't dislike this much. I really don't dislike that much about this movie. Another thing that I like is he has these tunnels, which explains, in previous entries, people always say, like, it's almost like Jason teleports. Well, in this movie, you have this tunnel system, so it totally, because this is going back to a realistic Jason, it's not a zombie Jason, so it totally makes sense. Like, that's such a smart way to explain how he's teleporting all across, the Camp Crystal Lake grounds. Just going back into kills, Some standout kills when Trent dies was a standout kill. They throw him on this hay baler on the back of a truck, and when he gets the machete through the chest, that was done practically. They had this mechanism where there was a machete and it went up. I like when the girl gets shoved onto the antlers, and something interesting about that is that right before Jason opens the curtain and you see him, like right before the kill, just that scene, just the curtain opening and us seeing Jason, they did that 23 times. It wasn't even the kill, just that 1-2 second sequence. So the filmmakers really put a lot of love and attention to detail into this movie. I love this movie. I have so much nostalgia for it, so much love for it. I've seen it a million times and I still love it to this day. So I've pretty much said everything that I want to say. Thank you all for watching. Peace out.